part 2 of my shop vac, or I should say shop vacuum shootout. Went over the Lowe's Monster Shop Vac and the Cheapy Shop Vac in the previous video, and this is my homemade shop vac, I guess, for lack of a better word. I thought I'd go over a couple things, and then I'll show you why I finally pulled the trigger on the Festool and what I like about it so far. If you're watching my last video, you know that I did some suction tests and some decibel tests, and sound is a big issue for me. I do not want to have a vacuum running and have to wear hearing protection while I'm sanding or something, which was like I designed and built this system. Let me open it up and you can see what it is. It's really not that, it's not rocket science. It's just a box. I lined it with some carpet foam, and inside it's got a 6-gallon shop vac, a QSP, older one. I don't think they make this one anymore, and it's definitely seen its days. It's almost 12 years old, I think, or maybe more than 12 years old. It's kind of been through a couple iterations. I added the boom arm later on to try to help with the cords getting tangled when I'm running the saw, and the I actually connected to the circular saw. It does have a tool activated on-off here, which is just a Craftsman thing. I think I bought it for 20 bucks and incorporated it into the design, and then put a switch on it so that I can control either the vacuum, tool oriented, or just turn it on and off. Put some casters on the bottom, so it does actually move around pretty well. It's a little top heavy. If you pull on it, it will tip over if you get a little aggressive with it. The box actually does a pretty good job. It's got made a little exhaust baffle in the back that's aligned as well, and the boom does move left to right. It was a kind of a second iteration. I didn't put the boom on originally, and the handle is just a piece of bent conduit. I really spent a lot of time getting the hoses right. I think that's a big problem with a lot of woodworkers or shop owners, is that trying to find a vacuum hose that works with all your tools. I had Porter cable circular saw and a DeWalt biscuit joiner and a variety of other tools that I wanted to hook my vacuum to while I use them, and the hose never seemed to work out. And I think I got over in the corner over there, you see kind of the hose boneyard where I've tried a bunch of different hoses, and ironically this is actually a Festool hose. It's their cheapy hose, which is still ridiculously expensive at like 90 bucks, and it's about 11 feet long, which works well with the boom on there, and it has a nice over molded bottom here, which is soft, so it stretches around a variety of different ports on tools. So let me fire it up. I'll show you how well it does on decibel meter and suction. And you know, it's nothing to write home about, but it, like I said, it did its job for many years, and I was ready to upgrade, and that's why I started to look at all the different tools, and I considered making another one of these with a new shop vac to see if I could get, you know, the suction up and get it as quiet. Okay, so it's pretty quiet. You see my voice kicks it up into the 70s. We'll turn it on. So high 70s, actually very quiet, much quieter than the other two shop vacs. Not much over talking. As you can see, I'm hitting the high 70s just by talking here. So it's comparable. It's the box really does make a difference, and it really quiets it down quite a bit. Certainly when you're sanding for a long time, it takes away the noise. The downside is it does get hot in there. That thing has got hot enough to make me concerned, and sometimes I'll open it up just to get it so that it cools off a little bit. And you can see I've cut a couple holes in it to help keep it cool. But the thing has lasted, like I said, over 12 years or around 12 years, and it does a good job. It's a bit of a pain to change the bags, obviously. You got to pull the whole thing apart and pull the vacuum out of there and then pull the vacuum apart to get to the bag. But and that's kind of why I was looking for something a little bit better. And the boom arm, it does work, does help. It's about, I don't know, about 5'7", 5'9". It's a little in height. Not quite tall enough to really get above the whole work when you're on a bench. And it still gets a little bit tangled. And it does make it a little more awkward to push it around the shop. And that's why I started looking at some of the other vacuum options out there. So let's move on to the Festool. It's one of the most exciting. Well, before I leave my homemade unit, I did forget one thing. Let's do a quick check on suction. And you'll see this is nothing to write home about. About the same as the other shop vacuum, so the little small one, which makes sense. For sanding and that kind of thing, does a good job. Actually works fine for a circular saw. Not quite powerful enough to really do floor sweeping or serious pickup of a lot of debris. But anyway, you know, I'm kind of proud of it. Like I said, it did the job, and it's kind of tried to answer some of the problems I've had with most of the vacuums on the market today. Okay, so Festool, like I said, it arrived yesterday. I'm pretty excited about it. I did a lot of research, at least it felt like to me. I watched every video I could find, which is why I decided to make some of these videos, because just to help you guys out and maybe cover something that wasn't covered in some of the other videos and try to give you a direct comparison. It's got a nice long cord, super heavy duty, and it's a little better quality rubber. Doesn't really have a memory, so it lays out nice and flat. As you know, it's got the tool activated. And it does have a control on the front here where you can turn it up and down, so which is nice. If you're sanding, you want to turn it low. If you're using a, you know, for circular saw, you might want it higher. Then obviously it has the tool activated port. The other nice thing about it is just the way that it's put together. So let me pull it apart and I'll show you. So it's got these levers on the side that you pop down, and then you can just reach up and pull the whole top off. I do have the hose connected, but it's flat on the bottom. It doesn't have any protrusions for the filter, so you can get to the bag really easily. And you can see I haven't really used it yet, other than just turning it on and off. But the bag went in really easy. And then, if you haven't seen in the other videos, and I'm sure a lot of the other guys cover this technical stuff a lot better than I am, but it's hard to do with one hand. You can see the HEPA filters on the bottom there. Pops right out, you pull that green thing down. The downside is this thing's expensive, really expensive for a vacuum. I mean, even that filter's like over $100, which is ridiculous. So I resisted for a very long time. I do have some other Festool tools. I have a sander and own both the Dominoes, and they are really nice tools, but I'm always looking for a cheaper way to go. I did not buy the Festool track saw. I ended up buying the Makita, and I'm totally happy with it, and I saved about half. So that's why I don't bleed green like a lot of the other guys do. If there's a tool out there that'll do the same job, I'll definitely do it. You know, pull a trigger on it before the Festool. So let's do a sound check and suction check, and I think you'll be impressed, and this is one of the reasons why I chose this vacuum. So I uncoiled the hose here. You can see it's nice and long. It is like a 1 1/4 inch. I think they call it a 36 millimeter hose, which, if you're like me, metric is, I have to do the math in my head, but about a 1 1/4 inch hose. So it's fairly small. Not going to pick up a lot of large debris. They obviously make optional larger hoses, which I'll talk about in a minute. But let's do the sound check here. So I'll normalize and then I'll just turn it on. So you can see it's a little bit louder. I'm having to scream, and that's when it jumps up in the sound meter. I'll shut up. So I'm going to turn it down just so you can see the difference. So that's about halfway. That was before that was full loud. Definitely changes its tone as you drop it down. The decibels don't drop that much, just the tone of it. So sound-wise, it's somewhere in between my homemade unit and with the box around it and the standard shop vac. It is quieter though. It does have kind of a whine. These are really hard to do with one hand. It does kind of have a whine to it, a high-pitched whine, which is a little annoying. But I think it'll be okay. And I certainly think I won't be running it at full clip to do things like sanding where it's running constantly in the background. So let's do a suction test. So about ready to try the suction test now on the Festool. This is where it just blows away everything. So I'm going to put it all the way up. That's full pressure. Obviously the other ones don't have the ability to turn it up and down that I've tested. And I'll turn it on. Look at that. Over 100 or right at 100. Just blows away everything else. Let me show you how it works, how the suction is when I turn it up and down. Turn it back on. That's half. So you can see the low is about what my shop vacuum is full blast. So I know this video turned into kind of longish video, but and I apologize. But the big thing is obviously this thing doesn't have the boom, and the boom I've done as an add-on, which I'm going to show you. In fact, let me go over and I'll show you the parts. I haven't put it on obviously yet. But here I'm just unpacking the boom and the boom arm. Looking forward to getting it. You can see all the parts here, and there's the boom, and underneath is the hose and the caddy. And then this must be the handle. And maybe in a separate video I'll detail exactly how this thing goes together. It's a little complicated. I'm a little disappointed. This thing's all heavy-duty steel. I was hoping it would be nice aluminum, lightweight. no reason to make things steel. And I mean, steel is strong, don't get me wrong, but you can make aluminum really strong. That's why they make aluminum bicycles. But overall, the downside of it is this was another $300 just to do the boom arm. Quite a bit more expensive than my piece of bent 1-inch conduit on my homemade, which cost about $12. We'll see how it goes together. I'm anxious to see how well it works.